Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Dr. Coker, with the program Bible Explains It All. Today, we are talking about the resurrected King. Is there any evidence we can say that we can really, tangible evidence, which we can really touch and feel that the King, the resurrected King, Jesus Christ, he was resurrected from the tomb? Now, I really just want to lay down some grounds before I really talk about the resurrected King this morning. First of all, if you see a lot of the major religions, I'm not saying every major religion, but majority of the major religions somehow converted from the military movement. So the military movement somehow converted into a religion. And those military leaders, usually they will just talk about the spirituality, and they would just talk about some moral values which were already present there, and then those moral values just converted into somehow a book. Okay, so I'm not going to name the religions this morning, but I really just want you to just go ahead and do your own due diligence and find out exactly what I'm talking about. That the military movements, they really, I mean, if you really start reading into those religions, you see that those religions, they were probably kind of a king, and that king, in order to motivate his soldiers, he talked about lot about spirituality, because I think this is a very easy way to motivate people to just go and die on the field, and just tell them that somehow, even if they will be just like flesh, their body will be dead, they will gain some status later after life. Now, Jesus Christ, as resurrected King, he is a king also. But unlike all other king of the world, all other king who were probably on the battlefield, they were fighting. This king, he preached, love your enemies. And this king later, according to the scriptures, resurrected also. Now, the thing is this, I am talking, is there any evidence that this king, which is unlike any other king of the world, he resurrected from the dead? So we're gonna examine like a three major evidence, and I'm just gonna tell you, God has bestowed upon me, God has blessed me this another source which I have not came across as of yet, and that is the evidence of Paul himself we're gonna talk about. And we're gonna examine the evidence of empty tomb. We're going to talk about the evidence of disciples themselves, but again, we're going to talk about from the different perspective, the perspective of Paul. And that is, I think, what I'm going to share with you is really amazing, which you're going to listen today. So first of all, we're going to talk about the empty tomb as an evidence. Empty tomb is, if you really look into, I would say, Matthew chapter number 28, verse, let me check, verse 11 through 19, I'm sorry, 11 through 19. If you really just want to go and examine, and we are in the anticipation, and actually, we know already he's resurrected, but at this point, uh, disciples, they are afraid. They are so, I mean, they thought that all this the preaching of Jesus Christ, all his miracles, what they're going to do, because these are really poor people and they are in the anticipation of Jesus coming back to life. And Jesus somehow resurrect, because according to the scriptures and what Jesus preached as a king, that he will resurrect. And it's very interesting to know that started from the Palm Sunday, and this king who just came on a donkey instead of a horse, and now this uh, king, he said that third day he will resurrect, and they're in the anticipation, but at the same time they're doubtful, because they have seen the death, and the death have engulfed a lot of people in front of them, but nobody came back to life, and they were just like, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Okay, now what's going to happen? The empty. If you read yourself. I'm sorry, I'm just going to give you this passage for you to read yourself, is Matthew 28. And that is about the guards' reports. When the guards, they just came and they say, hey, Jesus is not in the tomb. And then the Pharisees gave them money and said, just go and say that his disciple stole Jesus, from the tomb, or stole the corpse. But the thing is this, that in itself changed into an evidence, the empty tomb. The tomb was empty. And there is no, I mean, I don't see there is any kind of, there's no dispute on this, that these disciples, they were doing some menial jobs, very poor and poor disciples. And now they were told that they have stole Jesus from the tomb. So empty tomb in itself, from the mouth of the enemies, they really just, who really about a couple of days ago killed him, now they are just saying the tomb is empty. So this is the first overwhelming evidence, okay? So this is probably, you have already heard about it. So I'm just going to share. The second evidence is the poor disciples themselves. So poor disciples themselves, and if you really look into it, and if you go through it, you read through the other scriptures, the Jews, they lay down and everything. These are really poor disciples. These are the disciples, they're not even educated. Okay, so these disciples, they are, I'm just going to show you the pictures, and look at these disciples. They're just like with the donkey, or they're just like a fisherman, tax collector, and doing very kind of menial job, just like in today's day. If there is just like somebody, a poor shepherd, or if you just go and somebody just like a smelly guy on the beach, catching a fish, or somebody doing a clerical job uh, on a very minimal wage. And now these disciples, they just thought that it's lost. Now there are two things. When the disciples said Jesus is resurrected, so there are two things. They are probably lying. Okay, I can just like lay down this hypothesis that the disciples themselves, they were lying, that Jesus is resurrected at this point. Now the problem is this: if they were lying, okay, if this hypothesis is correct, that they lied about that Jesus is resurrected. So first evidence I already shared with you, the empty tomb. The second evidence, I'm just talking about the disciples. So if they lied that Jesus is resurrected at this point, then these disciples, just think about this, they dispersed all over the world and they became the witness of Christ, and they did not gain any kind of prestige, they did not gain any kind of kingship, but these people, they get persecuted later. Okay, so the hypothesis that they lied fall flat on its face when you really check the life of the disciples. When the disciples, they really just went out and they started doing the job what they were doing, but they ended up coming back, and then they dispersed all over the world, and then they were ready to lay down their life. So the hypothesis they lied is absolutely in itself incorrect. Okay, the second could be that, okay, they did not lie, but they really saw the Jesus Christ. Okay, so that is the second hypothesis, that they really saw the risen Christ. That is that hypothesis is standing, because if you see that these 11 disciples, they changed the whole world. I mean, you can see with your own eyes that the whole world has been changed, and the billions and billions of people, they came to Christ because wherever they went, they preached the gospel of Christ. And Paul, that's why he said, if the Jesus is not resurrected, and let me tell you the Bible verse where it is. It's saying the 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 14. It's saying, if Christ has not been raised, then all our preaching is what? Is useless. If I'm preaching here, sitting here this morning, and if I'm preaching, and if Jesus is not resurrected, so I'm just wasting my time, my brother and sister, but it is not. That's why I'm just laying down and I'm just sharing this evidence. And the third evidence I'm just going to share with you is this God just gave me, Paul himself. Look at this, who Paul is. He's Saul at this point, and he's the one who is just like ordering the persecution. If you see, I'm just going to show you. This is Saul, and he is ordering the persecution of Christians. And what happened to him? He is, if you really look into the history of Paul, it's so amazing. It's so overwhelmingly. This guy, he himself is in the line to become a king. Okay, he is becoming a king himself. If you read the history about at then Saul, and then he became Paul when he came to Christ, he at that point is, who is he? He is a disciple of Gamaliel, the leading Jewish rabbi, and who is in the line to become a chief priest. That's who Paul is. And you know what does that mean? That means the chief priest in himself at that point was a king. Because the chief priest would say, this person is condemned, kill this person, and the people would just go and kill that person. And that's exactly what happened, because Saul was ordered to go and kill Christians, and that's what he was doing. And you know what happened? Saul, who was the staunch enemy of Christ, who was the staunch enemy of Christians, he witnessed the resurrected Christ, and that changed his life. Not, he did not become a king. In my eyes, he is a king, but he is a king of what really Jesus wanted him, what you and me, he wanted you and me to be the same king, the king who loved his enemies. Okay, so what happened? If you see the life of Saul at the end, he's saying, and you know, all the disciples, okay, he said at the end, he said, I was spitten on, I was beaten. And Saul, if you really read the history and the life of Saul, what he was in the line to become, now he is not that. Instead, he's preaching the gospel, and then later he got persecuted. What did he see? What did he see different? That is the such an overwhelming evidence for me myself. Yes, the empty tomb, you guys probably heard about this. You guys heard about the disciples, they were the poor, they were just running around. But to me, the life of Paul is the great evidence. The enemy himself really face to face with the resurrected Christ and changed his life. And at the end, you know what Paul he said? He said in Philippians 3, chapter 3, 8 through 11, indeed I count everything as loss. I really just want you to really grasp this power of resurrection this morning. Really grasp, you know, exactly who this king is. Indeed, I count everything as loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ, my Lord. For his sake, I have suffered the loss of all things. When he is talking about suffering all things, he's talking about suffering, losing the king manship, that he is in the line to become a king. He is losing all the wealth, all the glory, which probably at that time can provide to the chief priest. He said he lost all of that. And I may gain Christ and be found in him, not having a righteousness of my own that comes from the law. Very important to know. It is now this King Jesus Christ, he's not talking about you to just go and live the same, just like I talk about on the top of the start, all these major religions, they're just talking about, you know, oh, live by the law. And what is that law? That is a military law, pretty much was given to it, and you just add some kind of moral values into it and just convert into a book. I mean, I don't care, you know. I mean, it's just like if anybody just want to come in, and we're going to talk about this. But this law you don't have to keep, because now you have see this Jesus Christ face to face, and that resurrected Jesus. And that's what Paul is talking about. He said, and I have a righteousness, and your righteousness for who? From who? But that which comes through faith in Christ. All you have to do is have faith. The righteousness from God that depends on faith, that I may know him and the power of his resurrection. You know, my brother and sister, I do not know where are you in your life this morning. But I tell you, if you know that power of resurrection and you're keeping it to yourself, then I don't think so, you know, where we are. in this point of faith, where we're in this faith in journey. I mean, I'm not asking you, and Jesus is not asking you to just go and all to do, some things, to keeping law and do. All you have to do is have faith. And if you see, the Bible starts from the faith and the Bible ending with the faith. Okay. And you do not have to have a faith in some dead man to just probably, you have to have a faith in the resurrected Christ. Okay. So Bible started with faith. How? It's because of Abraham. When Abraham, he just put his faith in God, so God called it righteousness. Okay. So now, and that righteousness, God, now you can see that faith right in front of you as a resurrection, in resurrection. And all you can have to do is this: have faith in Christ and confess with your mouth that he resurrected from the dead. God bless you all, and just go and preach the gospel of resurrection, which have changed the whole world, which can change your life, which changed my life. And God bless you. Thank you very much for watching it.